120 million years ago, the true life of Spinosaurus unfolded in the rivers. At that time, a large Numidian sawfish was foraging. When it saw the Spinosaurus, it immediately turned and fled, as it was one of the Spinosaurus's potential prey. The amphibious nature of the Spinosaurus determined its unique body structure, which was well suited for hunting in the water. However, with the changing seasons, the river's water level dropped, and food in the freshwater became scarce. To ensure the healthy growth of their young, the Spinosaurus pack decided to head for the ocean, where food was abundant. Pterosaurs often followed the Spinosaurus, as they had no teeth and survived by scavenging. These pterosaurs were drawn to the Spinosaurus, migrating alongside them. The Spinosaurus, which was aquatic, primarily relied on fish for energy. Weighing around 75 tons, this massive creature could support its huge body with just 2 legs. It had to keep hunting to maintain its strength as it headed toward the ocean. Using the buoyancy of the river, the Spinosaurus pack easily drifted downstream. At this moment, heavy rains caused the river to rise quickly, which was exactly what the adult Spinosaurus had been waiting for. They quickened their pace. The juvenile Spinosaurus also practiced swimming in the water, with the river serving as a natural playground for them. The rising water level allowed the adult Spinosaurus to dive and hunt more freely. With their crocodile-like heads, paddle-like limbs, and fin-like tails, they were perfectly adapted to aquatic life. Alongside the river, terrestrial Sharksaurus also lived in the area. Young Sharksaurus had never seen a dinosaur with a sail on its back, so they curiously approached the riverbank to observe the Spinosaurus in the water. The juvenile Spinosaurus also surfaced, curiously gazing back at these creatures. The Spinosaurus was one of the most protective dinosaurs when it came to its young. It would never allow its offspring to be harmed, but the inexperienced young Sharksaurus were not afraid of the adult Spinosaurus. Their actions triggered the Spinosaurus's predatory instincts. Fortunately, adult Sharksaurus arrived just in time. Facing an opponent of similar strength, the Spinosaurus chose to retreat. Soon after, the Spinosaurus pack finally reached the long-awaited ocean, beginning a new, abundant life. A Carnotaurus charged at full speed towards its prey, slamming into a massive carnivorous dinosaur, the Saltosaurus. The impact nearly caused the Saltosaurus to lose its balance, but before it could recover, the Carnotaurus struck again with its tail, knocking the Saltosaurus to the ground. Unable to fight back, the Saltosaurus lay there, awaiting its death. Just as the Carnotaurus was preparing to feast on its prey, an unexpected visitor appeared. An even larger carnivorous dinosaur, the Mape Macrothorax. The two Carnotaurus immediately tensed up. Not only was Mape Macrothorax bigger, but its claws were sharper, and it had the advantage in numbers. The Carnotaurus tried to defend its prey, but facing Mape Macrothorax, it was doomed to be at a disadvantage. Without hesitation, Mape Macrothorax launched its attack. In just a few seconds, the two Carnotaurus were pinned to the ground. Although the Carnotaurus had a powerful bite, Mape Macrothorax's agility clearly gave it the upper hand. When Mape Macrothorax was about to attack one of the Carnotaurus, the fallen Carnotaurus lost its will to fight. Struggling to get up, it quickly called for help. After an intense battle, there were no other predators in the vicinity for the time being, so Mape Macrothorax called for its young to come and feed. However, the fleeing Carnotaurus wasn't ready to give up. Anger and hunger made them bolder, and they even planned an ambush on an adult Titanosaurus. Although the Titanosaurus was 80 feet long and weighed about 30 tons, and almost no one dared challenge it, these two hungry Carnotaurus were determined to attack from behind. The Titanosaurus quickly sensed danger and swung its tail, sending one Carnotaurus flying. The impact knocked it unconscious, its body twitching. In contrast, Mape Macrothorax seemed more strategic. They didn't rush to attack, instead watching the situation from a mountaintop. Soon, they spotted an old, weak Titanosaurus. After the Mape Macrothorax leader locked onto the target, it led the group in a charge. Because this Titanosaurus was slow and feeble, it became separated from its group, and Mape Macrothorax seized the opportunity. With sharp claws, they slashed open the Titanosaurus's throat. The elderly Titanosaurus couldn't fight back, and its thick legs began to tremble violently. Although the Titanosaurus's companions rushed to help, it was too late. The Titanosaurus eventually fell. Seeing that help was futile, the Titanosaurus's companions had no choice but to retreat. But just as Mape Macrothorax was about to feast on its prey, they were ambushed by the Carnotaurus. Clearly, the two Carnotaurus held a grudge and were eager to make Mape Macrothorax experience the taste of losing their prey. The problem was, these two Carnotaurus were no match for Mape Macrothorax. Even though they struck first, they were eventually overpowered by Mape Macrothorax and had to flee again. For Mape Macrothorax, this was a feast like no other, and for the next month, they would not have to worry about food. However, with the migration of large herbivores, Mape Macrothorax would face an even greater challenge for food. A massive megalodon had half its body bitten off. It was slowly sinking to the ocean floor, and the attacker was another ruler of the sea, the Leviathan whale. It was a giant sea. The adult Leviathan whale can grow up to 50 feet long and weigh as much as 50 tons, making it one of the top predators in the ocean. However, in these waters, there are creatures far more powerful than the Leviathan whale, specifically the largest shark to ever exist, the megalodon. A few days ago, two young megalodons were hunting for food on the seafloor, unaware that danger was closing in. It wasn't until a massive Leviathan whale appeared behind them that the young sharks immediately began to flee. At that moment, a larger, growing megalodon charged out, ready to protect them. As it lunged forward, the Leviathan whale sunk its teeth into the megalodon's abdomen, instantly shattering its bones. In less than 2 minutes, the young megalodon was dead. The Leviathan whale, however, had no idea that a much more terrifying retaliation was on its way. A few hours later, the two escaping sharks returned, accompanied by several adult megalodons. When they saw the body of their fallen companion, rage spread among them. All of the megalodons decided to avenge their lost comrade. They quickly caught up to the fleeing Leviathan whale. At first, the whale wasn't worried, thinking the young megalodons weren't much of a threat. But when it realized that two fully grown megalodons were chasing it, panic set in, and it decided to dive into the deep sea to escape. However, its massive size made it slow, while the megalodons were much faster. No matter how hard it tried to escape, it couldn't shake them. With no way out, the Leviathan whale had no choice but to turn and fight back. An intense battle erupted beneath the waves. The first megalodon, roughly the same size as the Leviathan, attacked. But just as it opened its massive jaws to strike, the Leviathan whale swiftly bit down on its head, killing it instantly. The whale tried to dive deeper to escape, but another, even larger megalodon came crashing from the side and sank its teeth into the whale's abdomen. As blood spread through the water, the megalodon's bite force reached a staggering 20 tons. The Leviathan whale suffered fatal wounds, its body slowly sinking to the ocean floor, and eventually it became a meal for the megalodon pack. But this conflict was far from over. 3 days later, the Leviathan whale's pod discovered its carcass, and a wave of anger and thirst for revenge swept over them. What followed was an even more brutal showdown. A little bunny was quietly nursing when suddenly the mother rabbit grew very anxious. Without hesitation, she leaped up and quickly fled, leaving the little bunny behind. The reason was simple. The Arctic wolves were quietly closing in, and in that moment, life and death were hanging by a thread. The little bunny's natural fur color was the perfect camouflage, blending in seamlessly with the snow-white surroundings, nearly invisible. It stayed still, knowing that as long as it remained motionless, its chances of survival were still high. But one little bunny couldn't resist peeking at the wolf pack, and in that instant, all its companions were exposed to the wolves' gaze. The Arctic wolves locked onto their prey, and without hesitation, they began the chase. A tense atmosphere filled the air as the bunnies desperately ran for their lives. But as time passed, the bunnies began to tire, and the wolves took advantage, tackling them one by one. Even though the wolves had captured so many of their prey, their hunger still wasn't satisfied. They needed more food to feed the pups that were on the way. The wolves quickly changed tactics, shifting their focus to the adult rabbits. The leader of the pack issued a command, and the entire group gathered quickly, launching a concentrated attack on the adult rabbits. The adult rabbits were incredibly fast, reaching speeds of up to 60 kilometers per hour. Their agile bodies made it difficult for the wolves to catch them. After several rounds of chasing, the wolves had only managed to grab a few tufts of rabbit fur. Though success seemed increasingly close, the rabbits always managed to make a last-minute escape. However, the wolves didn't give up. After regrouping, they launched a more aggressive attack. This time, 4 main hunters were sent out, with the lead wolf following closely behind, while others surrounded from the sides. The wolves nearly blocked off all the rabbits' escape routes. This time, luck was no longer on the rabbit's side. But while the wolves were hunting, a dirty, scruffy wolf suddenly barged into the territory of the Arctic wolf pack. Quickly, the pack surrounded the intruder. Although trapped, this wolf showed no fear and instead launched a furious counterattack, its gaze fixed on the pups in the den, clearly targeting their young. At this critical moment, one of the wolves in the pack didn't hesitate to block the entrance. The intruder desperately tried to squeeze past, attempting to attack the vulnerable young ones. Just then, the wolf pack members began to pull the intruder out of the den. After a struggle, the truth slowly came to light. This was a female wolf whose 5 pups had tragically died. She mistakenly believed that this wolf pack had killed her pups, and so she sought revenge, attacking in a frenzy. However, the wolf pack did not strike her down, but instead decided to let her go. Luckily, the pack's pups had not been harmed. So, how had this wolf lost her 5 pups?